Hey everyone, this is Chris Cartledge. Welcome to Casual Friday. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about hanging your artwork and a consistent way to set up your hanging system so it makes it easier for people who are hanging shows or you're hanging it in your home, okay? Um, I recommend this. It's just a little hanging kit that I purchased off Amazon. It was really cheap, but it has all types of, different hooks for different sizes and weights for your painting. Um, so it has the smaller ones here. It provides all the screws, everything you need. Even has a level if you need it. Um, for the larger paintings, I would probably recommend using your own screws. These are fairly small, but you can get those at a hardware store pretty easily. Also has these little top hangers, which go this way. These little top hangers. Sometimes I'll use both. I'll use the wire, and then for the smaller ones, not the larger paintings. That way, it gives a couple of options when you're hanging shows or you're hanging in your own wall. Um, these can be really convenient if you're trying to match or place paintings and get them level real quick. So if you have the time and the extra screws for it, and it's a smaller painting, not one of these larger ones, sometimes I'll use a wire and one of these up top. And then at the bottom, you can put these little felt stickers if you want to protect your wall. Okay, so I highly recommend that. The other thing that I have handy is a cordless drill. You don't have to have one of these, but it makes life a lot easier. I have these little cheap wire cutters, and I have some needle nose pliers that I use. For wire, you can get these at your hobby store. This is aluminum wire, which does okay for lighter paintings. For larger paintings, I don't recommend aluminum wire. It will break. Because just see how this kinks, and when it kinks like that, that's going to be a breaking point for your painting. Wow, could probably break that. So anyway, this is aluminum. I've used all my braided on my larger paintings, but I can still show you my process with the aluminum wire. All right. So the first thing I do with my painting, this one is 36 inches tall. So I have a ruler here, and I go about a third of the way down. This is so the base of this, I have it at 12 inches, right? And I make a mark with a pencil, like this, and I'll screw in one and get it started, and then I'll mark 11, make sure they're the same height, and I use my pencil to mark where that is, and I mark it, okay? And then I screw in the other one. So let me show you how I do the wire. Of course, this one's already prepared, but so I leave it in this for the most part. And what I'll do is I'll pull out a little extra wire, and what I'll do is I will put it through and give myself about 2.5, 3 inches of wire to use. And what you want to do is you want to make sure you spin this pretty tightly, okay? You don't want to go travel along the wire and spin it, because that's going to pull and maybe even fall off. I've hung shows to where I put the painting and I'm in a different part of the gallery hanging, and all of a sudden I hear boom, and it's the wire just pulled right out. So you want to make sure they're pretty tight, and then give yourself a good dozen or so loops here. Also keep in mind the end of that wire is going to be pretty sharp, and it'll stab you. So that's why I use the needle nose. You can kind of squeeze it there on the end if you need to. I've seen people put tape around that. I've also stabbed my own finger on people's paintings that are stuck out like that. So just be thoughtful about that edge for yourself and others. So leaving that on, I pull it all the way across, and I'll extend it about 2.5, 3 inches, and then I'll cut it, and then I'll wrap it like this, and the same as I've done here. Okay. You want to do that fairly tightly because these wires do stretch. The aluminum wires especially stretch. So if you look at this one, this is a braided wire here, and it's stretched significantly. I probably didn't pull that as tight as I needed to because of where I was hanging it at the last show. But that's about 1/3 of the way down, as you can see here. I used these larger hanging systems with 3 screws, and I used a braided wire. These larger frames, the aluminum wire will not hold; they will break. So this point right here, it could actually break right here where it hangs. So if you use a braided, this is a small braided, and it holds this large painting fine with no problems. So the other reason you want to keep it tight, if you don't, you see how much this one stretched? It could stretch up, above your canvas here. So, and then on the hanging systems, people are having to move that hanger all the way up, trying to get your painting to be at the level it needs to be for viewers. So if you have it down here and it's tighter, they're not having to hang everything quite so high, and they can get it on easier. So that's how I do that. If you have any questions, or if you have any tips yourself, please leave a comment below, and I'll comment on that as well. So thank you so much, and talk to you later.